It's this positive feedback loop that never ends. This positive feedback loop of destruction. And then the really scary one is, I'm going to rewind the clip a little bit and find it, where he's talking about the police.
And then the police force now as well. Also prioritising hiring people who, get this, might not even be able to speak English.
Hiring people that don't even know how to speak English. And obviously that's going to go tremendous, right? That's going to go tremendous, right? But obviously we need to have more of these oppressed people, quote unquote, having these opportunities in our nation for some reason. And that's why they can't go make their own home nations great again. Maybe there's something wrong at home that maybe they need to address. Maybe, you know, many countries throughout the world that these people are coming from, maybe, you know, not electing terrorist groups to the you know, the premiership of their country, to the governing body of their country may be a good idea. But anyway, it isn't hard to see then when you get examples in the UK. A great example is when Martin Frost, I believe his name is, burnt a Quran in London, or was it Manchester? I think it was Manchester actually. And he was a Jewish man burning a Quran in the UK. Now, in theory, right, in a country where that kind of speech is supposedly protected, but we supposedly have free speech, that act, as much as it might be repulsive to some people, as much as, you know, we would say, for example, that burning religious documents in an act of provocation is not exactly a very nice thing to do, even though the book that he's burning in question calls for all our violent subjugation and death, okay, and calls for the takeover of our country. So I'm not exactly going to bat for defending the Quran by here, but if somebody was burning a Bible, for example, it'd be very uncouth, be very unprofessional. The only thing is, it is protected. It is protected, or at least in theory it would be, their right to do so. Okay, it's their right to freedom of expression and freedom of speech, right? And in a public forum, and especially obviously in the private home and in a public forum, you should be okay to do that. That's why you're able to have open dialogue at Speaker's Corner, for example, which very often turns into, you know, just nonsensical, you know, shouting from both sides, and has obviously many times gotten physical in many instances as well, with, you know, support officers and police doing absolutely nothing unless, again, you're of a certain race or certain, you know, ethnic background. Namely, if you're a native, then you'll be persecuted. If you're not, if you have one of these protected characteristics, then you will be praised for your resilience. But point being is that he was then arrested, and there's a reason why people are now calling it de facto blasphemy laws, is that he was charged, I believe, then with either insulting or harassing the institution of Islam, and he was arrested by 2 Muslim police officers, okay, clearly of Middle Eastern descent, I would imagine. So this seems like a tremendous idea.